Good day, my name is Summerson Sikising and I will be presenting my critic paper for the subject Theory and Functions of a Real Variable. The title of the paper is Concept Test in Undergraduate Real Analysis, Comparing Peer Discussion in Instructional Explanation Setting by Thomas Bower, Rolf Byher, and Elisa Lenkit in 2022. Just a disclaimer, this critic paper analyzes the paper of Bower et al. The content of this paper is not merely to evaluate the work of the author but to delve into their intricacies, unraveling layer of meaning, symbolism, and its context. Through meticulous analysis, my aim is to shed light on the things that are vague and give applause to the commendable actions that the researchers have done. The paper by Bower et al. Aims to investigate peer instruction not as part of a flipped classroom design, but it focuses on the method of PI itself, which they understood as the combination of voting on a multiple choice question, subsequent peer discussion, and a second voting. In this sense, they viewed PI as a method that can be used as an intervention in selected parts of a course independently of an overall design decision concerning a flipped classroom setting. From their objectives, they tend to answer the following question, and this is their way also to address the gaps that they have enumerated basing from their related literature. From the given research questions, the researchers have mentioned also their hypotheses. The researchers have grouped the students in Group A and Group B. This group of students attended the same course in the span of 2 semesters, which consists of 4 hours lecture by the first author and 2 hours lecture from the graduate tutors. The students were assigned randomly in Group A and Group B. In Group A, PI was used in the exercise session every week, while in this group, concept tests were used as suggested by Mazur, including a phase of peer discussion with each concept test and second voting after the peer discussion. In Group B, the same concept tests were used. After being presented with a concept test, students had time to consider the question individually and they were then asked to vote for an answer. Only this single voting took place and tutors subsequently explained the solution. The concept tests used by the researchers in the tutorial session were designed according to the principles laid out in Bower 2019. In the first step of the design process, the central concept of the material that was addressed in the current week's lecture were identified. Next, potential misconceptions about the concept or theorem were identified. In this step, the researchers used Stoll and Wiener's concept image or concept definition to classify misconceptions. These misconceptions might be related to the concept definition or to the concept image. Following the recommendation of Crouch et al., each concept test thus focus on an individual concept. With their conclusion, the difference between the two groups does not lie in the task, but entirely in the instructional implementation of the concept test as shown in their findings. Thus, contrary to the common belief, it should not be taken for granted that peer discussion is decisive factor for positive effect of PI. For the critical analysis, from their objectives, it is clear that they have established a clear goal on what they are about to research or prove through research. The researchers gave an in-depth discussion in coming up with their objective, and that shows on how they have stated it. One good thing about the paper of Bower et al. Is that in the introductory part or at the review of related literature part is that they have defined PI on different fields of areas like PI as an instructional strategy, prior studies into PI like effect of PI on learning outcomes, specifically why PI may work and learning outcomes and learning gains in PI. One suggestion that I can give on their paper, since they have mentioned that in research question 1, which states that is there a significant difference between the two groups in terms of learning outcome as measured by the results in their final exam, they do not have clear hypotheses since successful learning could occur in discussion with peers through inactive learning to quality explanations from a tutor. From my perspective, they should have stated a hypothesis since based on my readings, a hypothesis is a prediction, almost always prediction about the relationship between variables. A hypothesis is a specific statement of prediction according to Pollitt 2012, and they can just have predicted which is better or if both methods are the same. Anyway, the hypothesis may be accepted or rejected depending on the result of the study. It is good to note also that since they are comparing two groups with different approach, they use the same method but different approach for group A and group B. Having them group randomly is commendable also since it will remove the threats or bias of research that they might be controlling the result. The duration of their study for 2 semesters is good enough to really measure progress and if their statement of the problem is really being met. Tutorial services and teaching effectiveness can be really seen if the activity is being done in a long-term process which they did for all the groups of students in Analysis 1 class. In getting their data after the semester exam is a great move for the researchers rather than getting the result of their score every after assessment. The long-term sustainment of the concept, skills, and lessons is more important compared to the short-term. So I agree that the assessment score should be taken every end of the semester. The result of their study were presented in a clear graphical and tabular presentation where it was also discussed in a thorough explanation and in-depth analysis of the result. However, for SOP 1 and 2, they did not mention what statistical tool did they use to determine the significant difference of the two groups, though all the computations are present. Since they are focused on the inferential statistics or mainly the significant difference, they should have mentioned the statistical tool that they have used. It is very crucial that the tool was not mentioned, most especially that there were parametric and non-parametric tests in testing hypotheses. On the other hand, the discussion of SOP 3 and SOP 4, the statistical tool was mentioned. For the inferential statistics for SOP 3, they mentioned that they have used Mann-Whitney U-test with a level of significance of 10%, while for the SOP 4, mixed ANOVA was used. With the discussion of their findings and implication, it is commendable that the researchers did not focus only to the two groups but rather they discussed the tutor, duration of the services, and the method used for the concept test. Its benefit in teaching and learning real analysis and other subjects were highlighted also for different groups of people reading their research paper. However, I found that they seldom talk about some suggestions that they may suggest to the future researchers that may use their research as a stepping stone in creating their own research. They fail to emphasize things that may be used for the future researchers either by math teacher, students, or even non-math teachers that might want to use concept tests. The research revealed that there is no significant difference on both groups. The use of concept tests by comparing peer discussion and instructional explanation setting, but their result enlightened the readers the benefit of an intervention, most especially in the subject real analysis. Their conclusion emphasized that even if there is no significant difference on their result, one group can benefit still from the other group and they might appreciate one over the other. But the most important thing is the positive result of this concept test. For my takeaway, I have learned a lot from this research. As someone who is not exposed to subjects like abstract algebra, linear algebra, calculus, and other higher form of mathematics, I was given the opportunity and idea on how to teach these subjects if ever it will be given to me in the future. I always reject the idea of me teaching these subjects because I am not confident that I can deliver the lesson and if I can transfer the knowledge to the students. I may know the concept but I am having a hard time making my students learn this since it is in the higher form of mathematics. But with the interventions and processes that they have used for these two groups of students, I can apply this to teach these students in our university for them to contribute also in making mathematics fun and understandable to their future students too. concept tests, and undergraduate real analysis comparing peer discussion and instructional explanation setting by Bauer et al. In 2022 gave me an idea to try teaching higher form of mathematics through either peer discussion or instructional explanation settings, since the research shows that both of these are effective when using concept tests. This will help all the educators, future educators, and researchers to dig more on how they can make mathematics be learned by those who loves math and may be effective also for those who are having a hard time learning mathematics. That's all. Thank you.